Such a pleasure to meet you. Now, you were quoted saying once that you like to pick films that have a social impact in it, and this movie has so many different ones. Which one specifically drew you to the role, and what did ultimately draw you to your character?
Well, mainly the idea of two guys being the extension of, you know, humanity at this point, and how being the guardians, those two guys being the guardians of humanity at this point, knowing that they still have to keep on watch on the seeds and the dynamics in between the two, and certainly we see that their lives are challenged as well. And yeah, that was quite interesting to see. Yeah, organically, how would two people deal with trying to save mankind like that in that sort of setting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But obviously, I think doing stories, for me, it only has a little more meaning to do stories that have, the social impact, attributes to it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And your character, too, not to give too much away,
Mm-hmm.
is having a bit of hallucinations throughout the film. Is that something, he obviously has a connection to somebody that we don't know at the beginning if he lost,
Right.
if there's somewhere he's trying to find her.
Mm-hmm.
Was that more of a survival for him to see if he could find her, or is he surviving more for himself at this point? Because there's a little bit of back and forth.
Yeah,
between
there's
the
a
two.
little bit background, but it's mainly for himself, to keep sane himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's mainly for him to stay sane, to keep the sanity going, because obviously in that setting you quickly would lose it,
Mm-hmm.
very quickly. And you only have a couple of hours the minute you wake up anyways. Can you imagine that? In those couple of hours? And the idea of having to go back to sleep for a long time.
Your character, Cartwright, he's a bit of a claustrophobic person.
Right.
And the setting, I thought was amazing. I like this. It kind of felt almost like a play or an older, 80s throwback to kind of those survival movies where you have one set, and that's what makes it so exciting. It's simple.
Yeah,
which is
it's
great.
simple.
Bare bones.
And
very raw.
yes, it's very organic. It's very you're limited. The idea of being confined to a limited space, and all life reside within that space. It's quite.
I feel like on the set, you also probably were claustrophobic, working in such a small setting. How was it for that?
Pretty much every day it felt kind of, because again, for me it was even more because I was the one who had to go out in search of whether life existed, in search of some sort of existence really outside, and crawling through those tubes were absolutely stressful.
How many days did you have to film those scenes?
It went on for a couple of weeks, but every other day we would shoot it. But it got to a point where I did one that there was one last time I did. I thank God for it to be that one last time, because it really, after that I couldn't get into that suit anymore. I couldn't get into that mask.
Yeah.
The headpiece, and then get into that tunnel and be crawling. And actually, in the process of it, I kind of hurt my shoulders, because you barely have enough space for your shoulders. So you're crawling on your elbows and knees all the time. That was not very pleasant. Yeah.
Well, definitely, it kind of does put you had a couple of different stunts in there from crawling that way. At one particular point during this film, you have a bit of a fight scene. How was it filming the fight scene with Norman?
I'm very physical, as when it comes to action driven stories. So it was funny to be doing a bit of physicality with Norman Reedus. It was funny.
He's known to be a bit of a prankster on The Walking Dead. Did you find anything like that? Did he pull any stunts on you on the set?
Well, he did, but they were not. I mean, they were not like. It was not a joke. I mean, like he kind of kicked me one time and then went on screaming. Wow. You know, I thought it was a joke at first, but he really hurt himself actually. But yeah, he's funny. Yeah, it was quite interesting to choreograph those, fighting scenes in this confined little area where we're all just like running around the table and just trying to kill each other. It's funny.
Well, and I have to talk about you guys had such great chemistry together, and I had seen an interview that he was talking about that it was kind of quick. You had to make the chemistry quick. You had on set, and it wasn't.
There was no time. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys didn't go out beforehand and work on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, if we had more money, we could so much more explore this, the storyline, and certainly the lives of those two guys, those two guardians of humanity. Yeah.
You're used to working on such big picture films as far back as Gladiator and as recent as Guardians of the Galaxy. In this film, it's really raw. It's very bare bones. It is more about the characters and not the special effects and everything.
Yeah, that was quite nice too, and that's, I guess, the attraction of having to go on and making this film is to see how can two people who are engaged to save humanity, how is their lives in this confined environment, and how it's almost like a play, on stage, Yeah.
What kind of advice would you say if this were to happen? Because there is so much focus, especially on the environment and everything.
Yeah.
Being in this too, it was almost kind of nerve-wracking to watch because, there is pollution, and we're in LA right now, so the air is not always known to be so great.
Well, I don't know if we necessarily had an answer to this, other than hide until, the air gets better, and, I don't know. It's that's a tough one, but I think, but ideally that's sort of what we were trying to exploit, what's the word? Explore, the idea of having to find yourself in a situation like that. Yeah.
Really exciting. You have a lot of new movies coming out, such as Tarzan, and you also have Guy Ritchie's, Knights of the Roundtable. How was it working on those two films, and what can you tell us about the plots?
All the great films are coming up. I just finished Knights of the Roundtable with Guy Ritchie and Charlie Hunnam. It was a fun, probably one of my rarest fun on set. So it was a great, we had a great time approaching that story, telling that story. It was great. Tarzan, I did that last year, and I think it's coming out early this coming year. So
I'm very excited to see both of those films.
Yeah, so. I'm very excited too. I rarely see my films, but I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.